I was 22, just out of university, starting my career as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm in the city. My boss, Marcus, was 38 and clung to his high school glory days as a football star, treating women like we were there for his amusement. It began subtly, remarks about my clothing, suggestions to smile more because I was too serious for a cute young thing. He'd joke about finding me a man to show me a good time. I brushed it off at first, hoping it would fade if I stayed focused on my work. My desk sat right outside his glass-walled office, leaving me exposed. Every morning he'd lean over my workspace, his coffee-scented breath too close. "Morning, Sarah," he'd say. "That's a sharp dress. Got a hot date?" I'd fake a smile, eyes on my screen, but he'd linger, commenting on my figure or asking if I'd worn new perfume for him. His tone was that false charm men use when they think they're slick but come off as menacing. "You'd look better with a smile," he'd say, chuckling like he'd invented wit. The other women in the office gave me knowing glances but stayed silent. I learned why in hushed breakroom talks. 3 women had been pushed out after reporting Marcus. Their careers were ruined, references tainted, reputations trashed across the industry. "Keep quiet and don't engage," whispered Linda from accounts during a coffee run. "He loses interest if you don't react. Rachel tried fighting back last year. Now she's unhireable here." But Marcus didn't lose interest in me. My silence seemed to egg him on, as if my professionalism was a game of hard to get. Then came the touching, a hand resting too long on my shoulder in meetings. Accidental brushes in the hallway grazing my chest or waist. When I wore skirts, he'd hover at my desk, peering down my top, sometimes leaning over to help with my computer. "Let's fix that report error," he'd say, pressing against me as he grabbed my mouse, his breath warm on my neck, his hand accidentally brushing my chest. I began logging everything on my personal laptop, dates, times, witnesses, his exact words when I could recall them. Still, I felt trapped. Marcus was tight with David, the HR head. They golfed together weekly. He was also close with 2 senior partners, having been roommates with one and best man for the other. The firm's culture screamed that Marcus was untouchable. He secured major clients and was on track for partnership. I was a new grad with loans and no connections. Who'd believe me? Who'd care? "Don't take it personally," said Emily from reception. "That's just Marcus." But her eyes betrayed her. She knew better. She was just staying under the radar. Over 6 months, things worsened. Marcus started summoning me to his office for private reviews of my work. These dragged on for an hour, with him perched on his desk's edge, forcing me to look up at him. He'd praise my looks more than my performance. "You're really coming into your own, Sarah," he'd say, eyes roaming my body. "With the right mentor, you could climb high here." The subtext was clear, his mentorship, his terms. He began insisting on lunches, just us 2. When I declined, he'd call it career development. "Business happens over meals, not in boardrooms," he'd say. At these lunches, he'd push wine on me. "Relax, have some fun," he'd urge. If I stuck to water, he'd mock me for being uptight and say I'd never succeed without loosening up. He'd brag about his college days, his brief pro football stint, his industry connections, always implying my career hinged on his approval. "I like you, Sarah," he'd say, touching my hand. "You're hungry like I was, willing to do what it takes." The tipping point hit at our annual company retreat at a lakeside resort 2 hours from the city. The 3-day event was billed as team building, but was mostly golf for partners and poolside drinking for the rest. I avoided Marcus by sticking with groups, but on the last night, I was alone at the hotel bar, finishing emails before an early checkout. Marcus slid into my booth, blocking my exit. His whiskey-soaked breath and glassy eyes showed he'd been drinking heavily. "Well, look who's here working on vacation," he slurred. "That's commitment." I closed my laptop. "Just wrapping up. Early flight tomorrow." He grabbed my arm. "Slow down, the night's young, let's talk." "About what?" I asked, dreading his answer. "Your future," he said, his hand sliding to my thigh. "You could move up fast if you play ball, be a team player." His fingers tightened and nausea hit me. "I am a team player," I said, voice steady. "My reviews are solid." He laughed coldly. "Reviews, cute. This game's about connections, darling." His hand crept higher, pinning me in the booth. Panic surged. Then I saw it, his phone on the table, a voice memo app open, recording. "What's that?" I asked. He smirked. "My backup plan. If you try spinning this later, I've got proof you were flirting, begging for it." But Marcus, drunk and cocky, missed one detail. I'd swapped our phones at dinner when he left his on the table. Our identical phones, same black cases. The recording phone was mine, set to airplane mode. His phone with all his data was in my purse. "Maybe you're right," I said, feigning thoughtfulness. "I've been too work-focused." His grip eased, his ego fed. For 25 minutes I let him talk. The alcohol made him reckless and his arrogance made him sloppy. He spilled everything: how the firm's system worked, which managers targeted women, how they punished those who resisted. "It's not just about sex," he said, hand still on my leg. "It's about power. These new grads think they'll change the world. We show them their place." He named names, detailed incidents with women who'd left under murky circumstances, bragged about compromising photos of a junior associate, Lisa, who'd quit after refusing him. "David in HR makes complaints vanish," he boasted. "Builds cases against troublemakers with fake performance issues." He described a network spanning multiple firms, blacklisting women who spoke out. "They quit themselves," he laughed. "No lawsuits needed." He even named senior partners who knew and ignored it because of his client revenue. When he passed out in the booth, I had 25 minutes of damning audio. Back in my room, I plugged his phone into my laptop and found a goldmine. Marcus had recorded months of voice memos, not just with me but others. He thought he was protecting himself, but he'd cataloged his crimes. There were 47 audio files, conversations with victims, his own plans, boasts about successes, rants about women who escaped. One recording detailed his assault on Lisa. Another described photos he'd taken of women without consent at company events. There were calls with other managers, plotting to oust problem employees, and a folder of photos and videos, upskirt shots from meetings, images of drugged women at parties, footage of women changing, filmed through office windows. I spent the night backing everything up to drives and cloud storage, compiling evidence of a harassment network involving 15 women and 6 managers across 4 firms. Monday, I didn't go to HR or the partners. I went to WZTV Channel 9's investigative team, led by journalist Laura Bennett, known for exposing local corruption. After hearing the first recordings, she said, "This isn't just harassment. It's organized crime, drugging, illegal surveillance, conspiracy." While she built her story, I sent copies to the State Labor Board, the EEOC, and the FBI's White-Collar Crime Unit. Then I emailed key recordings to all 347 employees across the 4 firms, titled "The Truth About Workplace Harassment." My note read, "The predators recorded their own crimes, thinking they were untouchable. If you're a victim, you're not alone. Here's the proof." Tuesday, the office was chaos. News vans filled the parking lot, police cars lined the entrance, and federal agents roamed with badges. Marcus was yelling at David, demanding they trace the email. Women from accounting met with lawyers in the conference room. Phones rang off the hook with reporters and regulators. "This is sabotage," Marcus shouted. "Someone stole private files." FBI agent Karen Walsh approached him. "Actually, Mr. Thompson, we're interested in the files you made." I watched from my desk as agents led him away, his face ashen. David tried to corner me, playing nice. "Sarah, Marcus can be a lot, but this media stunt hurts everyone, including you." "What stunt?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "I just came to work and found the FBI here. Maybe ask Marcus what he did." Before he could reply, Agent Walsh called him in for questioning about burying complaints. By evening, Laura Bennett's report aired on the 6 p.m. news, exposing a harassment network across 6 firms, involving 30 women and 12 managers. The story went viral, picked up by national outlets. The hashtag #exposed by their words trended as women shared their stories. Our firm's stock plummeted 60% in days. Clients bylaid. The state launched an industry-wide probe. Friday, I was called to the managing partner's office, expecting a firing. Instead, Richard Holt stood looking broken. "Sarah, I'm deeply sorry," he said, sitting beside me. "Those recordings showed a cesspool in my company. I'm ashamed." He said the board had fired Marcus, David, and 4 others, hired an external firm for complaints, and mandated training. "We're promoting you to senior accountant with a 50% raise and a seat on our new ethics committee," he said. "It's not enough, but it's a start." I asked about the other victims. "We're contacting them for restitution and apologies. Some are returning to senior roles, others are suing, and we won't fight it." At Marcus's trial, 27 women testified. His life was in ruins, divorced, home foreclosed, club membership gone. I gave a victim impact statement holding my law school acceptance letter. "Your Honor," Marcus said, "I'd never succeed without playing his game." He was wrong. I'm starting law school on a full scholarship, focusing on victims' rights. He thought he'd teach me my place, but he taught me predators underestimate their targets. I gestured to the courtroom, packed with supporters. These relationships, women uplifting women, survivors backing survivors, are what matter. Marcus sobbed. He got 5 years and $2.3 million in restitution. David got 3. 6 others faced lesser sentences. Laura Bennett wrote a bestseller, Exposed by Their Words, and I penned the foreword. Predators fall when they believe they're invincible. I graduated law school top of my class, partnering with Laura to open Bennett and Associates, an employment law firm. Our first win exposed a tech startup's harassment network using their own messages. My old firm became a model for reform, with Richard Holt speaking on accountability. Marcus sent a prison letter blaming me for ruining his life. I replied, "You ruined your own life. I just hit record." 5 years later, our firm has 15 attorneys, 3 offices, and a 94% win rate in 200-plus cases. Industry practices are shifting. 3 victims now hold Fortune 500 roles. Linda's a nonprofit CFO. Lisa's a federal prosecutor. "You gave us our power back," Lisa said. I keep that recording as a reminder. Predators bank on silence, but their arrogance, bragging, recording, gloating is their downfall. Marcus started a fight he thought he'd won. I didn't start it, but I ended it, using his own words against him.